Okay, I think we are live. So welcome to Changing the Game. For those that you might just be joining us or hopefully hopping on in the next few minutes, we're at season 2, Changing the Game. I'm your host, Jennifer Hensley from Playmaker Coaching and Consulting. And today I am joined with Renata Carvalho, who's number 1 in Striano. So congratulations. Great to have you with us. Before we get into the conversation today, a couple housekeeping as people are joining is feel free to capture any of your questions or thoughts that you have in the chat as we go, or use the Q&A. And after our conversation, we should have some time to answer those questions. So be thinking about what stands out to you, what you want to make sure that we answer, and capture those so we can make sure to get back with you with addressing your thoughts today. In addition to that, I dropped in the chat a link to an assessment that you might find helpful to get a sense of where you might be yourself in terms of our topic around know, like, and trust, and what are some opportunities maybe in that space for you. So feel free to use that resource as well. And over the month of April, every Thursday, we're going to be coming to you with either a NM advisor such as Renata or some other practical implementation support to help you with how you could be known, liked, and trusted to create more opportunities to both win today, as you might be focusing on the end of awards year, as well as winning tomorrow, your longer term goals that you have for your business. So make sure that you tune into those sessions with our speakers. And then on the alternating weeks, encourage your team to join us for our idea slams, where we can roll up our sleeves and really help them implement it in your practice. So let's throw out our opening pitch, since it's opening day, at least here in Milwaukee. We got some baseball finally going on. So it's opening day, and we're going to get into our topic in 10. So as I said, this week I'm joined with Renata, and I just would love to kick it off with you sharing a little bit about yourself for our audience that may not have met you yet.
Hey, Jennifer, thank you for inviting me. It's very cool to be here, sharing some experience, some thoughts with the audience. First, I'm a business lover, always been since I was a kid. My dad used to be impressed because I used to read magazines and sell the magazines to my friends when I was like young, as a kid. So I always had that vein of business and sales. I'm also a sports lover. I am an athlete myself, always been, also since I'm a kid. I was first into tennis, got sick of it for so much training, and then went to soccer. Curious fact, I was in the Brazilian national team for youth, but messed up my knee. So that teamwork and discipline thing from sports always been in my veins as well. Today I'm a golfer, and I love to play golf and compete here in Florida, and I'm prepping myself to do the amateur tour, the national amateur tour, hopefully in 2 years. So I'm a proud immigrant as well. I'm from Brazil. I'm from Rio de Janeiro, and I love my city, but we have some security issues in Brazil, political, economics, things that I don't appreciate. And I love Brazil, but I love to be in an environment like USA, to grow, and an environment that respects, people and people like me that by choice decided to marry the person from the same gender. So I'm a proud member of the LGBTQ plus community. I embrace that. I am married with Beatrice. She's a beautiful architect. We met in Africa. And I was working there for 10 years before coming to the USA. And we met there. So a little bit about myself is that I love to speak with my clients. I'm very passionate, and my goal is to really get a different humanized experience to them in this industry that is so cold, so dry. And I think I make some difference by doing that.
Well, it's great to have you. There's so many things I feel like I could talk to you forever, because I played sports, not to that level, but I love it. And I think for our audience around, yeah, how that being a playmaker fits in and the journey that you've had, I think it's going to be really interesting about, you know, from all those angles, how do you become somebody that's known, liked, and trusted? Because we know that people, all the statistics say, right, is that people are more likely to do business with the people that they feel like they know, like, and trust. So tell us a little bit about, when you think of those, where do you feel like you've struggled the most, and which area has been the most struggle to you, and what has that looked like for you?
So definitely here in the United States as an immigrant, right? I'm here for 5 years. I came from an industry of retail and construction. I never worked in financial services before. I'm an economist, but never worked in financial services. So to be trusted was the one I struggled more with, despite the fact that I was always trusted. I was always an advisor in my life to my friends, to my family, someone that has that, attraction power. I don't know, of someone that is trustful. So here was more about positioning myself, right? Like, for example, a women in my culture, the immigrant culture, women in finance is very rare. This industry in our countries is made by men, right? So my public is the immigrant. So that was one thing on trust. They see a woman, talking
Mm.
about finance. So we hit a wall a little bit. And also women in business, right? Our also culture, like mainly culture, uh, is more like the women taking care of the home and the men working. So um, to be trusted, it took a lot of education, right? I did my MBA, executive MBA here. I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about, that I was confident, and that I had that my spirit is about helping people. Everybody can feel that
Mm.
when I am in front of them. I love educating. So it was like one by one. And I practically, like, today I don't go to clients anymore because they feel my passion. I am a trusted person in my community, and they come to me now, which is very cool. So definitely
Yes.
trusted was the one.
I appreciate you sharing that, and that vulnerability to kind of realize that
Mhm.
journey. And I'm sure it didn't happen overnight, but what you've done both to boost, your credibility from an expertise perspective, and as well as it sounds like leaning into like really who you are and who your audience is. So can you talk a little bit more about, what you did to change that? Are there some specific things that really helped you to, besides those two critical kind of foundational pieces, that helped you to help people to really trust you and get
Right.
past that?
So before people could trust me here in USA, I had to trust myself, right? I had to be in a position that to be an advisor, we're not salespeople. We are advisors. We really are doing that for the benefit of someone. So I had to work on my strong points, which was trust, relationship, and also I'm a big observer. I love analytics. I love to observe. I don't know if you guys that are watching read The Art of War. I love that book, for example, where I'm a strategist. So I was trying to understand where I was stepping in. So I observed a lot the market. And as an immigrant, I have a curious fact. I came from Africa with a good net worth. We had to be well paid there. I changed my whole life coming here. I had a family. I did not understand the market, nothing. I did not have life insurance. I did not have disability insurance. I did not have investments here
Mm.
in US. I didn't know how to do. And nobody came to me. Nobody in 3 years came to me to help me. So when I tell this story to, for example, the home office, they get shocked, like, and that's my mission. When nobody came to me, I said to myself, I'm going to be my own financial advisor. I'm going to train myself so I can be my own client, right? So observing the market for me is essential. And for everyone, I think, is like understanding where the opportunity is, where is the problem, right? So I understood a big problem of the market. I'm sitting, let's say, in a in a pot of gold, but sometimes people are looking ahead and trying to find gold, right? So the immigrants, yeah, we are 1/3 of the population of this country are immigrants or sons of immigrants, right? If we take into consideration, for example, qualified immigrants, which are people that have a bachelor's degree and at least 10 years of experience, we're talking about people that are making more than $100,000 in average here in this country, right? And they are not served. They are not served because there's not enough people to talk to him. They understand them, and they, for the ones that are here, they don't understand too much about immigration to serve them. Who can be the client, who what is it, the different types of tax numbers and things like that. So by I pivoted this situation by becoming an expert in international business, about international market, international client. So today I am a reference in the country for that. People come and call me from all over the country because they know, I know I'm talking about what is the path to become a US citizen, since you are a student or since you are a tourist, right? So I understand this. I was trained by large immigration law offices, and I put myself in this situation. I looked for training. Nobody told me what to do. I just observed.
Sorry, can you talk a little bit about, because I know we had a little bit of discussion before we went live with everybody too, about from a marketing perspective, how do you help people to, because obviously like if they get to know you, people are what it would come through very much like it does today, that that in that market, their pains, what's on their mind. What have you done in terms of like your social, your website, or other things along those lines to help people see that and awesome. Have that come across when they haven't maybe met with you yet?
Great point, because I have a big mission to empower the immigrants. Everybody knows, right? But if I do that locally here and speak to, the number of people here, I will not reach I will not scale, right? So I hired a social media company that the first thing was to understand me, right? It was not just about posting anything. It was about what I'm passionate about. What do I want? What do I want to achieve? So it's clear, everybody that knows my social media, they understand that my goal is to empower the immigrant in this country, right? And I communicate with my community. Sometimes I do, let's say, events like this where I invite my nutritionist, who is a top nutritionist in the country, to speak about health. And I'm not necessarily talking about finance, but I'm engaging with something different. It can be interior design, it can be nutrition, it can be sports. So I have, for example, UFC athletes, and sometimes I talk about sports because people like, and they see myself. I think it's all about power of attraction. Social media has a big, uh, positive point on that, because you can scale, right? And you can clearly communicate who you are, and make your community, interactive with you and your audience, and put yourself in an influencer position, which is not to be like a dumb influencer. If you are someone that wants to really engage and make people learn, and that's awesome. So I put myself in this position. I'm helped by this company, and they post like 4 posts a week. It's not crazy, but it's consistent to the message that I want to pass. I'm also consistent in creating engagement, things like this that you're doing, which is pretty awesome. And I also mix my personal life into it, because if we get too professional, it gets boring, right? And people want to follow you, not the sometimes only the professional.
Yeah, I think that's all great perspective. I was actually working with one of my clients, Daniel, and he was kind of going into things kind of somewhat anti-social of using social media. And we talked about just some of the things that you're talking about too. And he said, now he's starting to get responses on almost everything he's posting
Yeah.
because he's really showing more of his voice, his personality. And not to say that everything's going to always get all kinds of engagement on every post. That's probably not realistic. But what a shift it can make. And that, that's just the sort of thing that I love doing with my clients as well. So tell us a little bit more about, how things are different now for you with working with your audience. What changes that brought about for you?
Yeah, so it's very different now, especially because now people come to me, right? So just a quick example, like a practical thing. I think it's cool. When I do an engagement thing like this, and let's say I invite a UFC athlete that is my client, that person has X amount of followers, right? Sometimes much more than me, and they are talking, and people naturally will follow me. So I'm talking about sports. I'm not even talking about finance, but every person that follows me, I'm gonna follow, not necessarily follow them back, but I'm going to talk to them in private, right? And in Northwestern Mutual, we learn how to call people, for example, right? Not necessarily call people is grabbing the phone and calling them, right? Is finding creative situations that will make you engage with someone. So this is one example, right? So this was a huge shift for me. Now that I position myself, that people know me in a national level, because the client comes to me instead of me coming to them. So this makes a big difference, not only in premium, right? Because good people come your way, you get referred to other people, and but also has the responsibility that you need to make everything complied, that you need to make a good presence. You cannot do stupid things. So
yeah, you want to be mindful of what you're putting out there, certainly, and everything. So for our audience, especially a lot of people maybe that are starting out in the marketing space, haven't done a lot maybe in that space, what's that one practical tip of where do you think they should start if they were to do one thing?
I think first they need to understand who is the target, like what are they very, very strong at, because this is very important. I'm very strong on talking. So I like to talk. I like to communicate and engage. So if they are good like that, they should talk, but they should understand what is complied, what not, understand what FINRA says about us talking, what can we talk or not, right? Have a meeting with your dinos and things like that. And also start engaging, start making events or starting promoting some social interaction, because all this social interaction will be positive for you to be remembered. Sometimes it's not about making the post itself, it's to be remembered. So great brands like Nike, for example, sometimes it's the same product as another brand, but that swoosh, we know it, right? It's everywhere. So your face needs to be in the mind of your client, right?
That's some great advice. And sometimes just the getting started. And I'm just going to share with everybody too, is they have a resource for you, these 20 ways to improve your know, like, and trust. So I'm happy to share that with you. So if you want to put that in the chat with your email, we can get that out to you. Or if you're watching this on replay, feel free to reach out or put that in the comments and we'll make sure to send that out to you. You can use that alongside with that assessment to get some great ideas of where can you start. To Renata's point of you can't do it all immediately at once, but if you're struggling more with being known or liked or trusted, some examples of what that could, how that might be able to help you. So let me know if we can send that out to you as a helpful resource. And then what we want to do now is, I think you've gotten some great ideas around like your sharing of your journey and where can somebody get started and what kind of results that they can expect. So we want to open it up now to any questions that we have from our audience. So hopefully you've been thinking about those as we've been discussing it, and you can put those in the Q&A or in the chat. I'll be looking at both of those if there's questions. And while you're thinking about that, I'll start out with one of the questions that I hear most frequently, which is, can you do it for me, or who can do this for me? And certainly that's definitely something that I do for my clients is, recently I was working with Joe and we were talking about, how can you show more of that personality, show more of those real-time things. And he is saying like how exciting and how fun that is. And he'll actually be joining us at the end of the month. So make sure that you tune into that webinar. And you mentioned that too, Renata. So you talked about partnering with having somebody to help you do it. Can you talk a little bit about what was your criteria? How did you know it was the right person to help you be your voice to your market?
Yeah. So I was pitched by this person, which is a friend of mine, and she's very intelligent and she has a great sense of sensitivity, right? So, and she writes amazingly. So I said, let's do a test here because I'm very active in my business. And I said, I'm not going to have time. And a lot of times is that like, we don't have time. So we need to hire someone that will understand us, right? And I told her clearly what was my mission. She knows me personally as well, so the good person that I am and what I'm fighting for, right? So she promotes some ideas and I promote some ideas as well. So we have a frequent 4 posts, 1 engagement per week, 1 engagement like this, like a live or something. And she helps me with general ideas of marketing as well outside social media as well, like photography and things like that. One thing that I really like also to share is about LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been something that has helped me for people to understand, because that's your business card complete right there, right? So if you're pitching someone, that person is likely going to check you out on LinkedIn. So make sure you have a great LinkedIn that to show someone as well.
Great advice. Another question I see here is around, how do you decide on the content? I'm sure that's something that you're discussing with the person you're working with, but how do you decide on what content? Do you still utilize hearsay, or have you started doing all custom? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so since I'm very new into the business, I started not using hearsay, but then I understood with all the communications from home office and from the events that talked about marketing and our team here about the importance of hearsay. So it's very, very cool because hearsay gives us ready advice to send to people that are compliant, right? And to send in our name, but they prepared everything. So it's very, very cool. I just don't do that all the time because it's then you fall into that track that people will get bored of you. So so yeah, I use hearsay. So I use LinkedIn. I use Facebook. I have my page on Facebook. I have my personal Instagram page, which is not complied, let's say, that's my personal life, but I communicate Northwestern Mutual, let's say, finance topics on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Okay. Great. And another question was around when you talked about hiring, how do you know if it's the right time? Like, how did you know it was the right time for you to make that investment into your business versus just utilizing what's available maybe from the home office?
That's a great question. I'm since day one, I'm investing in my business, and I'm very confident. I know like I said to you, I prepare myself, right, to make impact. So we are only going to scale if we invest, right? It's the same as a store. I think myself the same as a store. So if I invest in inventory, I can scale and sell more. But if I don't invest, I'm gonna always have that limit of sales, right? So I invest in social media, I invest in my team, I invest in time in management. So I'm always investing ahead. Of course, people need to understand that they cannot be over the budget, right? What they earn. So I would say invest somewhere between 1 to 3-4% of your budget into marketing strategies. And then once you get comfortable with that, then you can start raising. but not raising the percentage. You're going to be raising the amount of absolute value because you're raising sales as well.
Yeah, that it should be able to grow over time as you're seeing more results from it. And I
Yeah.
think there's one last thing here about, this was kind of part of our conversation that I want to ask you about, is you had mentioned also of like, how do you make other people look like heroes through how you're showing up online? So can you speak just a little bit about that? Because I think often people talk so much about what they're putting out there, and they don't think necessarily as much about how do I show up for what other people, my audience, is putting out there. So tell us a little bit of that.
That's a great point. So again, coming back to, I think the business is about planning, vision, and execution, right? So we need to always be constantly paying attention on planning. So part of a strategy, I think, is to make people work for you, right? In a creative way. So for example, I am very strong in industry partners. And why would you? It's the effect multiplier that I say on my trainings, right? The X effect. So if I pick up the phone and I'm gonna be calling people all day, I can reach, let's say, 100 people. So how about if I invest my time and in trust, right, with my accountant, with realtors, with in my case, with immigration attorneys, right? That I understand that I'll make them the heroes, because immigration attorneys, if I give them the financial package strong for their clients, right? And all in a compliant way, I'm talking to their clients, I'm preparing the immigration process, for example. I'm understanding about the power of the client, but I'm not charging for that. But I have the risk that client, the risk is positive and negative, right? I have a higher risk that client is going to really become my client, independently on my industry partner, right? Because he's set in front of me, and guess who set me up? The immigration attorney set me up. So if I have one office of immigration, for example, let's say that sends me 10 clients a week, that's almost half of what I need in a whole week, that we need 25. And guess what? These people, they want me. It's the opposite. It's all the power of attraction thing that we talked about, the power of bargaining, right? They need to sit with me because they need to have a strong immigration process, right? So I'm just giving immigration as an example, and it's not me going after them, please have a meeting with me. No, they need to have the meeting with me because I'm preparing a very important piece of their process, and likely they will do things. I'm taking the risk that they will like me and do investments with me and other things. So same works for, just one quick example. Same works for accountants, for example. This is very simple. We need to make the accountant a hero, right? We know how to do IRAs, right? And even if you don't have license, you can put a joint work partner to do with you. But once you're sitting in front of the client that the accountant sent to you, that he's going to become the hero because he's reducing the taxes from the client, right? You are making them heroes, but there's a good chance that client is going to do life insurance with you and other things because the accountant sent all the financials from the client for you, right? So
yeah, I love how you say, how that can transfer to any different industry that you might be working in. So we don't have time for any more questions today, but if we didn't get to your questions, I would encourage you that join our Idea Slam next week. That's where we'll be going into more depth and talking about how can you take what you heard today, and especially if you have a team member, start to implement it for yourself and your business and take those first steps forward. So be sure to join us same time next week through our I think it's a different link, but through the events, you can sign up for it. So just as we close out today and everything, for joining us on the Changing the Game, we'd like to donate to a cause of your choice. So I'd love to hear briefly about a cause that you're passionate about that we can help support.
LGBTQ plus.
Terrific.
Right? Yeah, that'll be cool.
Great. Well, I'll follow up with you and get the information so we can support them with you. And thank you again, Renata, for joining us today. Resources for this week. If you registered and you signed up for the entire series, you should be good to go for each of our speakers. Remember, if you want the 20 ways to improve your know, like, and trust factor that we talked about earlier, put it in the chat or put it in the replay, reach out. We'll get that to you so you can use that with your team. as we move forward. And you've got access to the assessment, and we'll also be receiving that recording afterwards if you had registered for this. So you can always go back and listen to it again and pick out the pieces that resonate most for you in your practice. So remember, Renata's try this at work tip for the week is, really it seemed like it was about starting. Find a place to start, put yourself out there, get started somewhere, show who you are. Because we know human nature is really to postpone until it's the right time. We have the right resources, the budget. Well, it's never the right time, right? It's never the right time. I'm sure there was a certain element when you made that investment, Renata, that you were like, I don't know, but I'm going to take that leap of faith, and you did it anyway. So, that's why we're here. We're all here to help you. So join us next Thursday at the same time for Idea Slam to help you implement. And I have one final thought as we wrap up today, is picture that brand that you love. You're not mentioning, a lot of us, we know the Nike one, but what's that one that you really love? And think about what they do and the way that they make you feel and how they show up. And now I want you to think about a time when it's your brand that people are doing the same thing. They're picturing you and how great that will be.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
So thank you again for joining us. We'll be back next week. You guys have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye, Jennifer. Thank you.